The Valorian Empire's war fleet moved through space, like a wave of metal and fire. 500 warships, each one larger than a city block, traveled together toward the edge of human territory. Their hulls gleamed with polished armor. Their weapons bristled from every surface. They were beautiful and terrifying. At the same time, Admiral Thex Kor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Time's Eternal Dominion *. He felt satisfied. This display always worked. For 4,000 years, the Valorian Empire had ruled the galaxy using this simple method. Show overwhelming force. Demand surrender. Most species gave up immediately when they saw the armada. Texcor had personally led 17 of these missions. Not once had he needed to fire a shot in actual battle. The sight of 500 Imperial warships was enough to break any civilization's will to fight. Approaching the Terran border, Admiral, his communications officer reported, "Excellent. Begin standard intimidation protocol," Thexcor ordered. "Show them our weapons. Show them our numbers. Give them one chance to surrender." The communication went out across all frequencies. It included a video showing the Valorian fleet from multiple angles. The massive cannons, the fighter bays that could deploy 10,000 small craft, the shields that had never been broken in recorded history. The message was clear and simple. Resistance was suicide. Thexcor expected the usual response. Panic. Desperate pleas for mercy. Perhaps some foolish defiance, followed quickly by surrender, when they truly understood the situation. What came back surprised him. Valorian fleet, this is Captain Kim Minji of the Terran Confederation destroyer Times, Indomitable *. Thank you so much for this fascinating cultural exchange. Your ships are really impressive. Please, come closer so we can give you proper introductions. Thexcor frowned. The human's tone was friendly, almost casual. She sounded like she was inviting guests to dinner, not responding to an invasion force. Did she understand the message? He asked his communications officer. Yes, Admiral. Translation was perfect. She definitely received our ultimatum. Perhaps she's in shock, Thexcor decided. Send another message. Make our intentions absolutely clear. The second message was more direct. Submit to Imperial authority immediately. Become a vassal state of the Valorian Empire. Refuse. And face complete annihilation. Captain Kim's response came quickly again. Oh. We understood perfectly the first time. Really. We did. Please come ahead. We're ready to meet you. Ending. Then Thexcor heard something that confused him completely. Laughter. Multiple voices laughing in the background of the transmission. The humans were laughing. Admiral, sensors detect the Terran fleet moving to intercept our position, the tactical officer reported. How many ships? 50, sir. Approximately 50 vessels of various sizes. 50 ships against 500. Thexcor relaxed. The humans were going to fight. Foolish, but it would be over quickly. One demonstration of Imperial firepower would end this. How long until we're in weapons range? He asked. 20 minutes, Admiral. Thexcor used that time to study the human ships on his tactical displays. They were smaller than Valorian vessels. Their designs looked functional, but plain. No decorative elements. No features meant to inspire fear in enemies. They looked like cargo ships more than warships. Pathetic, muttered his second-in-command. Appearance means little, Thexcor said, though privately he agreed. Still, doctrine requires we offer one final chance to surrender. Open a channel. Captain Kim Minji's face appeared on the main view screen. She was young for a ship commander by Valorian standards. Her uniform was neat but simple. She was smiling. Captain Kim, I am Admiral Thexcor of the Valorian Imperial Fleet. This is your final opportunity to avoid bloodshed. Stand down immediately. End in 40. End in quote. Admiral, with respect, we're not standing down, Minji replied. Her smile didn't fade. But we appreciate the warning. Should we expect you to begin your attack soon? You're truly going to fight? 50 ships against 500? Well, we don't really see it as a fight exactly, Minji said. She glanced at something off-screen. We see it more as an introduction. You wanted to meet us, right? So, let's meet properly. Thexcor cut the transmission. The human's confidence made no sense. Either she was insane, or she was bluffing, trying to appear brave before inevitable defeat. Sir, we're picking up multiple data streams from human territory, the communications officer said. They're broadcasting this encounter. Millions of civilians across their colonies are watching in real time. They're streaming their own defeat? Thexcor couldn't comprehend it. What species would want their people to watch them lose? Admiral, the human fleet has assumed a formation. They're not retreating. They're definitely preparing to engage. Thexcor studied the tactical display. The 50 human ships spread out in a pattern he didn't recognize. Not a defensive sphere. Not an attack wedge. Something else entirely. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the humans. It's not directed at us. It's an open broadcast to their own fleet. Play it. A male voice came through the speakers. Calm. Professional. Almost bored. All Terran vessels. This is Commander Lee Sang-woo. Aboard the Times. Tenacious asterisk. Confirm formation Delta 7. Watch their firing patterns when they do the demonstration shot. I want full analysis on weapon frequency, shield modulation, and targeting system lag time. Remember, stay polite. They don't know any better yet. Thexcor felt a chill run down his spine. The human commander wasn't giving battle orders. He was giving instructions for a training exercise, as if the Valorian Empire's fleet was a test simulation, not a real threat. What did he mean by demonstration shot? The second in command asked. He couldn't possibly know our standard tactics, Thexcor said. But doubt crept into his voice. The range closed. 15 minutes. 10 minutes. 5 minutes. The human ships didn't waver. They didn't flee. They maintained their strange formation and waited. All ships, prepare demonstration strike, Thexcor ordered. Target the space around the human fleet. Miss. Deliberately. Show them the power they face. That usually convinces the stubborn ones. 200 Valorian warships fired simultaneously. Energy beams and missile volleys lit up space around the human fleet. Every shot, carefully aimed to miss, to terrify, without killing. The display was magnificent. Exactly as intended. Then Captain Kim Minji's voice came through again. That was beautiful, Admiral. Really gorgeous light show. Are you finished warming up? Or should we wait for another display? Her tone wasn't defiant. It wasn't angry. It was genuinely curious. Almost friendly. And that terrified Thexcor more than any threat could have. Admiral Thexcor stared at his tactical display, trying to understand what was happening. The demonstration strike should have worked. It always worked. Show overwhelming firepower, and enemies lost their will to fight. But the human fleet hadn't moved. All 50 ships maintained their positions. Their shields hadn't even flickered on. Admiral, should we proceed with the actual attack? His weapons officer asked. Thexcor hesitated. Something felt wrong. The humans were too calm, too confident. He decided to try understanding them first. Send a direct message to their commander. I want to speak with her again. Captain Kim Minji appeared on screen once more. She still wore that same friendly smile. Captain, why haven't you retreated? Thexcor demanded. You saw our firepower. You must understand, you cannot win. Oh, we saw it, Minji replied. Very impressive coordination. 200 ships firing simultaneously, with only 0.3-second variance. Your targeting computers must be at least 40 years old, based on the calculation lag. Probably Model 7 series quantum processors. Right? Quote, Thexcor felt his blood run cold. She had analyzed their weapon systems from a single demonstration volley. That should have been impossible. How did you? He began. We watched. Minji said simply. You shot at us. We paid attention. Your energy weapons operate on a fixed frequency range. Very stable. Very predictable. And your missiles use standard thermal tracking with limited countermeasure adaptation. It's all very straightforward. She said, straightforward, the way someone might say simple or basic. Not quite insulting, but close. Scan their fleet. Thexcor ordered his sensor officer quietly. Full analysis. I want to know exactly what we're facing. While his crew worked, Commander Lee Sang-woo's voice came through the comm system again. But this time, he wasn't addressing the Valorians. He was broadcasting to the human fleet in the clear, on a frequency anyone could intercept. All ships, tactical briefing, Lee announced casually. Valorian shields use a rotating frequency pattern with a 7-second cycle. They're strong against sustained fire, but vulnerable to rapid frequency shift weapons. Their formation spacing is too tight for their point defense systems to cover each other effectively. Overlapping fields create blind spots at approximately 30-degree angles from their ventral sections. He continued for several minutes, calmly discussing every weakness in the Valorian fleet. Shield frequencies, weapon ranges, formation gaps, engine output patterns. He spoke like a teacher giving a lecture, not a commander preparing for battle. Admiral, they're broadcasting tactical analysis of our fleet, Thexcor's communications officer said unnecessarily. I can hear that. Thexcor snapped. Why would they reveal their intelligence in the open? Unless, he thought with growing dread, they don't care if we know what they know. Unless they're that confident. Sensor analysis complete, Admiral. His tactical officer reported. Human vessels are smaller than expected. They use a combination of kinetic and energy weapons. Their power signatures suggest efficient but not overwhelming output. Their armor appears to be composite layering rather than pure metal. Overall assessment. Inferior technology. Thank you for watching. Then why aren't they afraid? Thexcor wondered aloud. Permission to speak freely, sir? His second-in-command asked. Granted. Perhaps they're simply ignorant. They may not understand what they face. Some species don't grasp the reality of war until it's too late. It was a reasonable explanation. Thexcor wanted to believe it. But Captain Kim's accurate analysis of their weapon systems suggested these humans weren't ignorant at all. Open a channel, he ordered. Captain Kim, I must ask you directly. Do you truly intend to fight the Valorian Empire with 50 ships? We intend to respond to your attack. Yes, Minji replied. You came to our territory with weapons armed and demands ready. What did you expect us to do? Minji. Surrender, Thexcor said honestly. Every rational species surrenders when facing impossible odds. Interesting, Minji said. She tilted her head slightly, as if considering a curious puzzle. How many species have you conquered with this fleet, Admiral? 23 civilizations have joined the Empire after witnessing our armada. Joined, Minji repeated. Is that what you call it? And how many of those civilizations fought back? 3 attempted resistance. They were destroyed within hours. What level of technology did they have? The question caught Thexcor off guard. I don't understand the relevance. Humor me, please. What was their technological development? Were they spacefaring? Did they have energy weapons? Shields? Thexcor reviewed his memory. 2 were early spacefaring. Chemical rockets, basic satellites. 1 had achieved limited system travel but no faster-than-light capability. None had military-grade energy weapons or defensive shields. So you've never actually fought someone with comparable technology, Minji said. It wasn't a question. We have 4,000 years of military history. Thexcor's pride flared. The Valorian Empire has never been defeated. In battle. Thexcores. In Calendar. Thexcores. Because you've never faced a real battle, Minji said gently. You've been conquering people who couldn't possibly fight back. That's not war, Admiral. That's bullying. The word stung. Thexcore felt his face flush with anger. You dare! I'm not trying to insult you, Minji interrupted. I'm trying to give you important information. You asked why we're not afraid. Here's why. We've been watching your empire for 30 years. We've studied every conquest, every battle, every tactical decision your fleets have made, and we've realized something important. She paused, and her smile faded for the first time. You're not as good at war as you think you are. You're just experienced at intimidating primitives. Enough, Thexcore shouted. You've insulted the Empire for the last time. All ships, prepare for full assault. Target the human fleet. Show them the true power of Valorian might. Admiral, wait, his tactical officer began. Fire. 500 Imperial warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams lanced through space. Thousands of missiles streaked toward the human fleet. The darkness of space lit up like a star going nova. It was the full power of the Valorian Empire, unleashed without mercy. Thexcore watched the tactical display, waiting for the human ships to vanish in explosions. But something impossible happened instead. The human ships moved. Not retreating, not scattering in panic. They moved with precision and purpose, sliding into new positions with perfect coordination. Their point defense systems lit up. And suddenly the space between the fleets filled with intercepted missiles exploding harmlessly. Energy beams splashed against adaptive shields that flickered and reconfigured faster than Valorian targeting computers could compensate. In 30 seconds of sustained fire, the Valorian fleet achieved exactly 0 hits on human vessels. How? Thexcore couldn't finish the sentence. All Terran vessels. Commander Lee's calm voice came through. Execute pattern Delta 7. Remember your training. Stay coordinated. And please, try not to damage them too badly. They're going to need those ships to get home. The human fleet began to move forward, and Admiral Thexcore realized with growing horror that his armada might have made a terrible mistake. The battle unfolded like nothing Admiral Thexcore had ever witnessed. It wasn't just that the humans were fighting well. It was that they were making his fleet look clumsy. 50 human ships moved through space like dancers performing a choreographed routine. They weaved between Valorian fire, with movements that seemed impossible. Ships rotated and burned their engines simultaneously, changing direction in ways that should have torn them apart from the G-forces. But somehow, the humans managed it. Target that destroyer, Thexcore pointed at the Times. Indomitable Asterisk, Captain Kim's ship. Concentrate fire. 30 Valorian cruisers focused their weapons on the single human vessel. Energy beams converged on one point in space. The Times, Indomitable Times, wasn't there anymore. It had rolled 90 degrees and boosted upward in a maneuver that took exactly 1.2 seconds. The Valorian beams hit empty space, and several actually struck other Imperial ships that had been positioned on the opposite side. Sir, we just hit the Times Glorious Venture Times and the Times Star Crown Asterisk. His tactical officer reported. Moderate damage to both. We're shooting ourselves? Thexcore couldn't believe it. Their movements are too fast, Admiral. Our targeting computers can't keep up. By the time we fire, they've already moved to a new position. On the tactical display, Thexcore watched as Commander Lee's ship, the Times Tenacious Asterisk, performed an even more impressive maneuver. It spun completely around while maintaining its forward velocity, fired its main railgun at 3 Valorian cruisers, then flipped back to its original orientation. The entire action took 4 seconds. All 3 railgun shots hit their targets. All 3 Valorian cruisers lost their engine sections in coordinated explosions. How is that possible? Thexcore's second-in-command whispered. The calculations alone should take minutes. He did it in seconds. Thexcore's. Um, um, All Terran vessels, good work. Captain Kim's voice came through the comm system. She was broadcasting to her fleet. But the Valorians could hear everything. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. Disable only. Target engines and weapons. Leave life support intact. Thexcor felt a chill. The humans weren't fighting to kill. They were fighting to teach a lesson. Admiral, we've lost 40 ships to engine damage, his tactical officer reported. Another 30 have disabled weapon systems. We still have over 400 combat-capable vessels, but those numbers didn't reflect the reality. 400 Valorian ships were losing to 50 human vessels. And it wasn't even close. The humans used everything as a weapon. When a Valorian missile volley approached the human formation, they deployed small drones that intercepted the missiles. Then those same drones, now damaged and tumbling, were positioned deliberately in the path of following Valorian ships. The Imperial vessels had to break formation to avoid the debris. When breaking formation, they became vulnerable. Human ships struck with precise fire that disabled rather than destroyed. One Terran frigate faced 5 Valorian destroyers. The smart tactical decision would have been to retreat. Instead, the human ship flew directly toward the closest destroyer, rolled underneath it while firing at point-blank range, then used the Valorian ship's explosion as cover to approach the next target. Within 2 minutes, all 5 destroyers were disabled. The human frigate had taken no damage. "This is impossible," Thexcor muttered. "Our ships are bigger. Our weapons are more powerful. How are we losing?" His tactical officer, a young officer named Vexestil, spoke quietly. "Granted, I've been analyzing their tactics, sir. They're not better because of their ships. They're better because of how they use their ships. Every movement has a purpose. Every action supports another action. They're not just 50 individual ships. They're one unified fleet that thinks and moves as a single entity." Thexcor watched the display and realized Vex Till was right. When one human ship engaged an enemy, 2 others moved to support it automatically. When a Valorian attack came from one direction, human ships had already shifted position to counter it before the attack even landed. They predicted everything. They reacted to everything. And they made it look easy. "Sir, the Times Eternal Dominion Times is being targeted," his weapons officer shouted. 3 human destroyers approached the flagship from different angles. Thexcor's ship had the strongest shields in the fleet. Surely they couldn't penetrate it. The 3 ships fired simultaneously. Not at the flagship. At the space around it. Their weapons hit precisely calculated points that created a cascading shield failure. For exactly 2 seconds, a gap opened in the Times Eternal Dominion Asterisk's defenses. 2 seconds. That was all the time Commander Lee needed. The Times, tenacious Times, fired a single railgun shot through the gap. The metal slug, moving at a significant fraction of light speed, punched through the flagship's armor and destroyed the main weapons control system. It was surgical. Precise. Perfectly aimed to disable without killing. "Weapons offline," the weapons officer reported. "We cannot return fire." Thexcor's hands trembled. His flagship, the most powerful ship in the Valorian fleet, had been neutralized in seconds. "All ships, retreat to defensive formation," he ordered. "Maximum shields." The Valorian fleet pulled back, forming a protective sphere with shields overlapping. It was their strongest defensive position. The formation had protected them against countless enemies. Commander Lee's voice came through the speakers again. "Terran fleet, hold position. Don't pursue. Let them form their defensive sphere." The human ships stopped advancing. They simply waited in space, weapons still active but not firing. Thexcor used the pause to assess the situation. The tactical display showed the truth clearly. 50 human ships had disabled 237 Valorian vessels. Not destroyed. Disabled. Every hit had been precise, calculated to remove ships from combat without killing their crews. The humans could have slaughtered them. They chose not to. Admiral, we're receiving another communication request from Captain Kim, his communications officer said quietly. Put her through. Captain Kim Minji's face appeared on the screen. She didn't look triumphant. She looked concerned. Genuinely concerned. Admiral Thexkor, I'm requesting a temporary ceasefire, she said. I think we need to talk. Really talk. Not as enemies. As two military commanders who need to understand each other. You're winning, Thexkor said bitterly. Why would you want to talk? Because this doesn't have to end in complete destruction, Minji replied. You came here expecting us to surrender. We defended ourselves. But we don't want to destroy your fleet or humiliate your empire. We want you to understand something important. Understand what? That you're not weak, Admiral. You're just unprepared. There's a difference. She paused. Will you speak with me? Commander Lee will join us as well. We'll explain everything. After that, if you still want to fight, we'll fight. But I think you deserve to know the truth about what happened here today. Thexkor looked at his tactical display. His once mighty armada was scattered and damaged. The humans had proven they could destroy them whenever they chose. Pride demanded he refuse. Wisdom suggested he listen. Very well, he said finally. I'll hear what you have to say. Thank you, Admiral. Opening a secure channel now. The screen split to show both Captain Kim and Commander Lee. They both looked professional. Respectful. Not at all like victorious conquerors gloating over their defeated enemy. And Thexkor prepared to hear truths he suspected would change everything he understood about the Valorian Empire. Admiral Thexkor looked at the two human commanders on his screen. Captain Kim Minji sat calmly in her command chair. Commander Lee Sang-woo stood beside her, arms crossed but posture relaxed. Neither showed signs of stress, despite having just fought an entire Imperial armada. Before we begin, Thexkor said, I must know. How long have you been watching the Valorian Empire? 30 years, Minji answered immediately. We detected your ships when we first expanded beyond our home system. We tracked your movements, studied your tactics, analyzed every conquest and every battle. Why didn't you contact us? Because we weren't sure if you were worth contacting, Lee said bluntly. We kept hoping to find a civilization that explored space for knowledge and cooperation. Instead, we found empire after empire, all of them expanding through force. The Valorian Empire was just the largest. Thexkor felt insulted, but he kept his emotions controlled. You judged us unworthy? We judged you unprepared. Minji corrected gently. There's a difference, Admiral. Let me show you something. She gestured off-screen, and a tactical display appeared, showing previous Valorian conquests. Thexkor recognized the battles. He had commanded several of them personally. This is the conquest of the Meldrin species, Minji said, highlighting one battle. Your fleet of 300 ships attacked their home system. They had 40 vessels, chemical propulsion, primitive missiles, no energy shields. The battle lasted 11 minutes. You overwhelmed them with superior technology and firepower. She pulled up another battle. The Torvax Collective. They had advanced computers, but their weapons were still kinetic projectiles. You defeated them easily with your energy shields. Another battle appeared. The Quellan Federation. They had energy weapons, but fixed frequency. Your rotating shields made you nearly invincible against them. She showed battle after battle. Every Valorian victory displayed the same pattern. Technological superiority. Crushing less advanced opponents. Do you see the problem? Lee asked. We are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, Thexkor said proudly. You were, Lee corrected. Past tense. But more importantly, you never faced a real challenge. Every species you conquered was decades or centuries behind you technologically. You perfected a formula and repeated it against weaker opponents. We have 4,000 years of military tradition, Thexkor protested. You have 4,000 years of the same military tradition, Minji said. Admiral, when was the last time the Valorian Empire changed its tactics? When did you last redesign your ships? When did you last question your own methods? Thexcor opened his mouth to answer, then realized he couldn't. The Empire's tactics hadn't changed in centuries. Why would they? They worked perfectly. Against primitives, he thought, and the realization stung. Let me tell you about human military history, Lee said. We've been fighting wars for our entire existence as a species. But unlike your empire, we fought against ourselves. Nations with similar technology, similar capabilities. Every time one side developed an advantage, the other side adapted. We've been in a constant cycle of innovation and counter-innovation for thousands of years. He pulled up images of human military equipment through their history. Thexcor saw the progression. Simple weapons becoming more complex. Tactics evolving. Technology advancing. On Earth, if you use the same tactics twice, your enemy learned and defeated you the third time, Lee continued. We had to constantly improve, constantly adapt, or we died. That's what created modern human military doctrine. Not superiority. Necessity. When we finally reached space, Minji added, we didn't stop evolving. We took everything we learned from fighting each other and applied it to space warfare. We tested against opponents who could match us because we trained against ourselves. Thexcor watched tactical breakdowns of human training exercises. Ships fought other ships with identical capabilities, forcing commanders to rely on strategy rather than technological advantage. Your ships are individually more powerful than ours, Lee said. Your energy weapons hit harder. Your shields are stronger. But you never learned how to fight an equal opponent. You never had to. We have battle experience. Thexcor insisted weakly. You have experience intimidating weaker species, Minji said, not unkindly. That's not the same as military competence. Let me show you what I mean. She pulled up the recording of the recent battle. When we engaged your fleet, you used Formation Pattern 7. We recognized it immediately because you've used it in 21 of your last 23 conquests. Your ships space themselves exactly 40 kilometers apart because that's optimal range for your energy weapons against unshielded targets. Lee continued the analysis. But against targets with shields and point defense, that spacing creates overlapping fire zones where you can't shoot without risking hitting your own ships. We exploited that. Every time. The recording showed human ships deliberately positioning themselves in the gaps between Valorian vessels. When the Imperial ships fired, they either missed or hit their own allies. Your weapon frequencies are fixed in a predictable rotation pattern, Minji added. It makes your power systems more stable, which is good engineering. But it also means we can calibrate our shields to predict and counter each frequency before it hits us. More examples followed. Valorian strengths that became weaknesses when facing an adaptive opponent. Predictable patterns that humans exploited. 4,000 years of military tradition, becoming 4,000 years of stagnation. Thexcor felt something break inside him. Pride. Certainty. The absolute confidence that the Valorian Empire was supreme. You're saying we're obsolete? He asked quietly. No, Minji said firmly. You're stagnant. There's a difference. Obsolete means you can't improve. Stagnant means you stopped improving. Because you didn't need to. You can start again. Why are you telling me this? Thexcor demanded. You've defeated us. You could destroy our fleet. Take our territory. Conquer the Empire. Why show mercy? The two human commanders exchanged glances. Lee spoke first. Because conquest is easy, Admiral. Any species with superior weapons can conquer weaker ones. You've proven that for 4,000 years. But building something better than an empire? That's hard. That requires partners, not subjects. We didn't come to space looking for territory, Minji added. We came looking for people worth knowing. Civilizations that could challenge us, teach us, grow with us. The Terran Confederation spans 30 worlds and 12 billion people. But we're lonely. We kept hoping to find others who explored space for the right reasons, and we found empires instead. Lee finished. Built on fear and force. The Valorian Empire is the largest, but the pattern is the same everywhere. Expand. Conquer. Stagnate. Repeat. What do you want from us? Thexcor asked. Nothing right now, Minji said. We want you to go home. We want you to think about what happened here. We want you to report to your emperor that somewhere in this galaxy, there's a species that's better at war than you are. And then we want you to decide what comes next. You're letting us go? Thexcor couldn't believe it. With all your wounded, and most of your ships intact, Lee confirmed. We disabled your vessels. We didn't destroy them. Your crews can repair the damage. You can return to Imperial space, with your heads held high. Why? Thexcor asked. This makes no strategic sense. Captain Kim Min-ji smiled that same gentle smile she had worn since the beginning. Because, Admiral, we're not trying to defeat the Valorian Empire. We're trying to teach it. There's a better way to exist in this galaxy. We're hoping you'll learn that. But you can't learn if you're dead. Admiral Thexcor sat in silence for a long moment. Everything he believed about the Valorian Empire, about his own capabilities, about the nature of power in the galaxy, had been challenged in the last hour. Part of him wanted to reject it all, to insist the humans had simply gotten lucky. But he couldn't. The evidence was too clear. If we return to Imperial space, he said slowly, what happens next? You've humiliated the Empire. The Emperor will demand revenge. More fleets will come. Will they? Commander Lee asked. Or will the Emperor see what we see? That sending more ships won't change the fundamental problem. You need to evolve, not expand. And if we do return with larger forces, if we bring every ship in the Imperial Navy, Captain Kim Min-ji's expression turned serious. Then we'll defeat them too. And we'll keep defeating them until you understand that military force isn't the answer here. We don't want to destroy the Valorian Empire, Admiral. But we will defend ourselves as many times as necessary. You're that confident you can defeat our entire military? Yes, Lee said simply. We could conquer the Valorian Empire within 10 years if we wanted to. We have the technology, the tactics, and the will. But we don't want to. Why not? Thexcor demanded. You'd gain hundreds of systems, resources, territory, power. And what would we actually get? Minji asked. Territory we don't need. Resources we can find elsewhere. And billions of people who would hate us. People we'd have to control through force. People who would resist and rebel and make our lives miserable for generations. She leaned forward, her expression intense. That's not victory, Admiral. That's a prison sentence. We'd become exactly what we despise. Another empire built on fear. Lee crossed his arms. The Valorian Empire rules 847 systems. How many of those systems joined willingly? How many would stay if you removed your fleets? How many of your subjects actually respect the Empire versus fear it? Thexcor had no answer. He knew the truth. Most subject species hated the Empire. They obeyed because resistance was suicide, not because they believed in Valorian rule. Humanity tried empire building once, Minji said quietly. On our own planet. Different nations conquering others. It always ended the same way. Resentment, rebellion, collapse. We learned that the only sustainable relationship between peoples is voluntary cooperation, not forced submission. So what do you propose? Thexcor asked. We simply abandon the Empire? Centuries of expansion? We propose you evolve, Lee said. Go home. Report what happened here. Tell the Emperor the truth. And then ask yourselves a question. What does the Valorian Empire want to be? A collection of terrified subjects held together by force? Or a coalition of partners, held together by mutual benefit? The Emperor will never accept that, Thexkor said. The Empire is built on strength through dominance. Then the Empire will stagnate and eventually fall. Minji said bluntly. Not because we'll conquer you. Because you'll collapse from within. Subject species will rebel. New threats will emerge. And you won't be able to adapt because you've forgotten how. She pulled up a star map, showing human and Valorian territory. Look at this objectively, Admiral. The Terran Confederation is tiny compared to your empire. 30 worlds versus your 847. But in a straight military conflict, we'd win. Not because we're inherently superior. Because we stayed sharp. We kept evolving. We never stopped questioning our own methods. What you're describing is constant insecurity, Thexkor observed. Never being certain of your own strength. No, Lee corrected. It's constant growth. The moment you become certain of your strength is the moment you stop improving. Then someone stronger comes along and you lose. We'd rather stay uncertain and keep growing than become confident and stagnate. Thexkor considered this. It went against everything Valorian culture taught. Strength through certainty. Power through dominance. But he couldn't argue with the results. The humans had proven their philosophy worked. If we withdraw today, he said carefully, what guarantee do we have that you won't attack us? None, Minji admitted. You have to trust us. Just like we have to trust that you'll actually think about what happened here. Instead of just planning revenge. Trust between enemies? We're not enemies, Lee said. We're potential partners who started off badly. You came to conquer us. We defended ourselves. Now we're talking. That's progress. What would partnership with humanity even look like? Thexkor asked. That's something we'd negotiate, Minji said. But it starts with mutual respect. You stop trying to conquer us. We stop needing to defend ourselves. Eventually, maybe we trade. Share knowledge. Face threats together. Maybe some of your subject species would rather become independent partners. Maybe the Valorian Empire transforms into the Valorian Coalition. The Emperor would see that as weakness. The Emperor sees everything through the lens of domination, Lee said. But ask yourself honestly, Admiral. Is the Empire stronger today than it was 1,000 years ago? Or is it just bigger? The question hit hard. Thexkor knew the answer. The Empire had expanded, but it hadn't truly improved. Same technology. Same tactics. Same philosophy. Just applied to more territory. I cannot promise the Empire will change, Thexkor said finally. I can only promise to deliver your message. That's all we ask, Minji said. Deliver the message. Tell them the truth. Let them decide what comes next. And if they choose war, then we choose defense, Lee said firmly. And we'll win. Every time. Until you're ready to try something different. Thexkor nodded slowly. He gestured to his communications officer. Prepare the fleet for withdrawal. All damaged vessels are to be towed by functional ships. We're returning to Imperial space. Admiral, his second-in-command, protested quietly. This is retreat. The Empire has never retreated. The Empire has never faced an equal opponent, Thexkor replied. Today we learned what that means. I intend to make sure the Emperor learns the same lesson. Thanks. He turned back to the screen. Captain Kim. Commander Lee. I will deliver your message. I cannot promise you will like the response. We'll deal with whatever comes, Minji said. Safe travels, Admiral. And for what it's worth, the galaxy would be better with a Valorian Confederation as a partner rather than a Valorian Empire as an enemy. The transmission ended. Thexkor sat in his command chair, watching as human vessels moved to escort his damaged fleet to the border. Not as guards, not as conquerors, As courtesy. They could have destroyed us, he thought. They could have humiliated us. Instead, they taught us. Whether the Empire would accept the lesson remained to be seen. Course laid in for Imperial capital, his navigation officer reported. Execute, Thexcor ordered. The Valorian fleet began its journey home. Behind them, the human fleet maintained position. Weapons powered down, but ready. Captain Kim Min-ji watched the Valorian ships depart on her tactical display. Commander Lee stood beside her. Think they'll learn? She asked. Lee shrugged. Eventually, humanity did. We had to fight ourselves for thousands of years before we figured out that cooperation works better than conquest. Maybe the Valorians will be faster learners. And if they're not, then we defend ourselves again and again until they get it. He smiled slightly. We're patient. We can wait. Min-ji nodded. She pulled up long-range scans showing the rest of the galaxy. Dozens of empires, all built on the same principle as the Valorians. Expansion through force. Dominance through fear. Do you think any of them are worth talking to? She asked. We'll find out, Lee said. One way or another, the galaxy is going to change. Either they'll learn from the Valorians' example, or they'll face the same lesson directly. That sounds exhausting. Probably, Lee agreed. But it's better than the alternative. We could conquer them all. Build an empire that spans the entire galaxy. And then what? We'd become the next stagnant power, waiting for someone else to come along and teach us the same lesson. So we stay vigilant, Min-ji said. We stay sharp, Lee corrected. We keep questioning ourselves. Keep improving. Keep hoping that someone out there actually wants to build something better than an empire. Think we'll find them? Maybe, Lee said. If we're lucky. And if not, maybe we'll teach enough civilizations that eventually some of them will join us in building something new. Min-ji smiled. That's optimistic. That's human, Lee replied. On the view screen, the Valorian fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, heading home to report an impossible truth. That somewhere in the galaxy, a species existed that was better at war than they were, and wise enough not to use that strength for conquest. The real question wasn't whether humanity would dominate the galaxy. The question was whether the galaxy could learn to evolve, to grow, to become something better than a collection of empires built on fear. Time would tell, but humanity would be ready either way.